So, you want to be an artist, huh? Not quite as exciting as being a space captain, but much better than being a Traverian hoosling flapper, I'll tell you that. This is Tom Owens. He works at Big Idea Productions, drawing the characters and designing the look of the shows. Today, he's going to show you how to draw me. Luckily, he's got a stunningly good-looking model. How can he go wrong?
Okay, we're going to learn how to draw Zidgel, who is the leader of the group. He's sort of athletically shaped with a big chest and stuff and long waist. He's narrow at the bottom, very athletic proportions. In order to draw him, you start with a kind of a small head and a thick neck that's about the same diameter as the back of that cranium. Draw kind of a big barrel-chested guy and drop him down into like a long waist, and then the feet hang off right on the corners of the bottom, right here at the break of the chest and the bottom torso, which is relatively straight with a kind of a bulge on either side for his, I guess, knees, is where his belt would go. Very sort of confident, so we tend to draw him sort of half-lidded expression like the hero that he is, or at least that he thinks he is. Stick his beak in there, and then he's got his big pompadour. He's also got one of these big collars like the rest of the guys in the group. Right here in the middle of his chest is a spot for his letter plate. Then he's got the same shoulder pads as everybody else does, and his arms come right out of there. Usually draw him kind of swaggering, so we draw him with his fists on his hips, sort of heroically, and his feet. Then we go back in and define all this stuff. They've all got, all of the penguins' characters have sort of like penguins' flippers for feet. So their real toes kind of stick out the front of these boots with, like, I guess, holes cut in them for their toes. And then there's his other arm, and there you have Zidgel.
So, you want to be an artist, huh? Not quite as exciting as being a space captain, but much better than being a Traverian hoosling flapper, I'll tell you that. This is Greg Hardin. He works at Big Idea Productions, designing characters and creating a lot of the artwork for the show. This isn't quite as fun as being a penguin, probably, but we can't all be me, now can we? Anyway, Greg is going to draw the ship for you today. Very cool thing to draw. You know, Greg, it'll look better if you can kind of see me gazing heroically through one of the windows out into the deep unknown of space.
Time to draw the penguins' ship. Okay, start out with what kind of looks like an kind of an egg. And penguins are hatched out of eggs, so it kind of fits. And then I like to draw the stripe going through, kind of helps me figure out where to put stuff. Like the propeller is going to go back here. And then the nose of the ship goes right there, connects to the middle of that line, and then connected to the stripe are kind of these flares. Okay, so now that we got that, we can go ahead and put another portal. We'll go ahead and draw kind of the sunroof, because all the penguins are going to be sitting down in here, so this just lets them see out into space and stuff. So here's the bars that hold the windows together. And then let's draw the engines. Kind of go like that. They got these neat circles that wrap around them. And then we get to draw the wings, which I'm not sure why you need wings in space, because there's no atmosphere to bank against, but we'll go ahead and give them anyway. I guess they just look cool. Before I draw the rest that's going to go back through here, I'm going to draw the propellers, and then I'll finish the wings. And see, they're smaller because they wrap around onto the other side of the ship and they're further away from us. And we're done.
So, you want to be an artist, huh? Not quite as exciting as being a space captain, but much better than being a Traverian hoosling flapper, I'll tell you that. This is Todd Carter. He works at Big Idea Productions, drawing the characters and designing the look of the shows. Today, Todd will draw the Lizard King. The bad guys are important. The worse they are, the better I look, after all.
Okay, the Lizard King has this sort of oval shape head. We're going to start with that. Slightly construct his head like this. And then from there, we're going to build his body. His neck, he's very long and snaky-like, so his neck kind of comes off like this. He's got a hunch in his back, kind of runs down like this. With his long, snaky shape. And then into his tail, kind of comes off like this. So you can see how his neck is thin here, it gets wider here, a little bit wider where his back is, and sort of thins out again as it goes down the tail. We're going to start roughing in some of his body parts. His arm, his shoulder kind of comes down here like this. It's very thin at the top, and as he gets down, it gets thicker. And he's got very dainty-like fingers that sort of come off the end. He uses those little fingers when he's playing Squid-Tack-Toad, and that's why he's so good. Got a glove, so this glove shape kind of comes off here off his arm. It's got a little V shape in it like that. And then his backhand starts narrow here like this. He's got a thick elbow. And then his little dainty fingers. And once again, he's got a glove here, so we're going to draw that glove shape. Then his legs start down here somewhere. And just like his arms, they're very thin at the base. And then as they come off, they get wider. There's these two S-shaped lines that make his leg. And then it's sort of very flat across the bottom. We're going to draw that one there. And this one here. And then across this flat shape here, his feet come off. He's these very long lizard-like toes. And then the same on the back foot. He's got kind of a thumb shape here, and then the long toes. He's these sort of these squiggly little shapes for his knees. Now we're going to go back and, of course, draw his head and his face. He needs his features on his face. So going back to this oval shape, I'm going to draw a center line to help place his features, like that. And coming off a point here, he's got this sort of long, almost like a beak, long, thin nose that ends in a smile. And a big chin kind of comes up like this, and then there's a line that sort of comes across like this to define the edge of his beak-like nose. He's got a nostril down here. And then I'm going to draw two sort of oval shapes for his eyes. One here and one kind of behind it like this. And the Lizard King's kind of a sneaky guy. He's always thinking about cheating, so he's going to have a kind of a sneaky look to his eyes. I'm putting an eyelid here and here, and even one on the bottom. And he's going to be sneaky. He's going to be thinking about the next game that he's going to cheat in. He's got a plan. Okay, then he has a hat. It's with this great big hat. It's an odd shape, like this. The front of the hat sort of comes to this thin tip, and the back is sort of very round. Comes across, his head sits in this shape. There's sort of a little bit of a bite out of it right there. And then there's a part that kind of comes up in the middle. It's kind of a Crocodile Dundee hat. And then we have some sort of like alligator kind of teeth sitting up here like this on his hat. And then the Lizard King has these great big fan things that sort of stick off the edge of his neck. And when he's very angry, he's able to open these fans way out. But when he's not angry, he's sort of docile. They just sort of hang to his side like this. The way we do it is just sort of draw these long straight lines and then connect them at the ends. He's got a belt around his middle, and we're going to draw that right here. With a big buckle right here. He has a line that sort of comes down his chest, and he's got different colors here and here. The line kind of comes down, flows into his tail. And then we add some spots, because he's kind of a spotted lizard. And then a little bit of shading on his hat here. I'm going to turn my pencil sideways to get some good shading. And that's pretty much how the Lizard King looks.
So, you want to be an artist, huh? Not quite as exciting as being a space captain, but much better than being a Traverian hoosling flapper, I'll tell you that. This is Luis Contreras. He works at Big Idea Productions, drawing storyboards. I'm not sure what that means, but I'll tell you right now, it's not as good as commanding a spaceship. Anyway, Luis will be drawing one of the koalas for us today.
These koalas these are cheaters. Okay, when Tom designed them, he was thinking that they have to have a kind of a mean gaze. These guys are bad guys. You do a sort of square, and then very light. Remember, you have to draw light at the beginning, so you can be messy if you want to. The main thing is to have fun. So it doesn't matter if it's not a perfect drawing at all. Anyway, so you do a kind of a cross where the nose is going to be in the mouth. Then we're going to do the body now. And the body is another kind of a square. These guys, these koalas, have very strong chest, big chest. And if you see, our koalas have a kind of a 2 1/4 proportion of 2 1/4 heads. So we have here the belt, and then we're gonna have the legs. The legs are very tiny, small feet. And we're gonna pull here down their strong arms. Gonna extend the arm. Okay. And we go a little bit above the cross of the eyes, or the axis of the eyes and the nose and the mouth. And this is going to become the jaw. Okay, do you see that? And then the nose is a sort of thing here. And we put the nostrils. Koalish nostrils. Mean guys, cheaters. Okay. And the eyes looking right at us, like we gonna win this game. Remember the tape? Remember? We have a koala ears. Now you see, my lines are sloppy, but I'm trying to have fun with them, so I don't care much about how clean it is. And it has hairs in the ears. And then it has a hat, sort of roundish hat. Okay, and it has a sort of antenna because this happens in a planet. And a dish, has a dish to receive all kinds of signals. It has a peto, sort of cover device here to protect him, a collar that is big. And this goes more or less and covers this part. And this one goes here. Now, so we're ready to dress him. He's gonna have this kind of thing here, and he's going to have gloves and claws. He's doing a gesture of strength here because he's a mean guy and he's strong. We're gonna suggest here the belt. Now it's time to dress him in would add weight to the lines, okay? nostrils. Dark because these are holes. Then I'm gonna color a bit the nose, and I'm gonna put in the jaw gesture. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of a glare in one side of the eye, and then I'm gonna put all my graphite in the eye because these are very piercing dark eyes. Put some hair in the ears. Okay, now this design has circles and circles, big circles. Then the belt. And I will paint it black. If you get fancy, then you must think, okay, I'm gonna put some light in it. All right? If I put the light this side, then the shadows are gonna be in the opposite side. Okay? So I'm gonna put the light more or less here. And I'm gonna pretend that I can get in. And I'm gonna have some shadows, and I'm just gonna use my pencil to do it. Okay, so I had the light in this side. And this one too. Can you see it? Okay, and why do I want shadow? Because it's gonna give some three-dimensionality to my drawing. And I can paint a floor without painting the floor, without drawing the floor. And that will give me a place to stand on. And this is how you draw the koala.
So, you want to be an artist, huh? Not quite as exciting as being a space captain, but much better than being a Traverian hoosling flapper, I'll tell you that. This is Greg Hardin. He works at Big Idea Productions, designing characters and creating a lot of the artwork for the show. This isn't quite as fun as being a penguin, probably, but we can't all be me, now can we? Anyway, Greg is going to show you how to draw Midgel. Why Midgel? I don't know. I would have chosen someone more, captain-like myself, but let's see how he turns out.
We are going to draw Midgel. So I'm going to start off with a head, with a circle, and a big old circle for his chest. Connect the lines for his neck. Now go ahead and draw his eyes, these big circles. And have him looking right at us. And I'll draw his beak. Give him a big happy smile. Draw the edge of that beak. And his eyebrows. Okay. Right now he's bald. But now we're going to put his aviator hat on him. It comes down like that. Got the ear hole. And the lenses go on top of his head. Draw the color separator and his collar. Give him a bit of an eyelid. And then I'll drag his body down like this. Give him his belt. And his chest shield. And I'll go ahead and give him his shoulder pads, I think. Put that one over there. Let's see, he needs to have his feathers, his only hair. So one kind of hangs down over his eye. Another one hangs out further. And then he's got one more that kind of goes up like that. It's right there in the middle of his head. And then Gotta give him his body, or his legs. Got these tiny little legs. Go like this, and then this kind of goes like that, connects with his body. Arch his color separator. I think I'll arch that one too. And then I'm gonna have him putting his hand on his hip, kind of facing down just a little bit. Then connecting his arm to his shoulder. And then I'll give him his feet, those little flippers, the little balls go on these booty things. Then I'm going to put his shield, his logo, his 2 fingers and his thumb. So connect his arm to his shoulder, get the rest of his glove, and then connect it like that. Now I gotta put the black on his face where it goes. This really starts to make it look like him when you do that. Okay, there's Midgel.
So, you want to be an artist, huh? Not quite as exciting as being a space captain, but much better than being a Traverian hoosling flapper, I'll tell you that. This is Tom Owens. He works at Big Idea Productions, drawing the characters and designing the look of the shows. Today, Tom will show you how to draw Uncle Blob. Tom's the guy who figured out what Uncle Blob would look like, so he's just the guy to do it.
Okay, so this is the character Zero Mustel played in The Producers, and this is kind of what we based Uncle Blob on. This is sort of his final design, inspired by these. Uncle Blob is very bottom heavy, so I mean he's got like kind of a small head, big jowly chin, and he leans way over, so his chest drops almost straight down to his crotch. He leans way over, so his back is slanted backwards, and then he's back heavy. And then he's got very, very short legs that are sort of wide spaced apart. So you draw the cranium, the jowls, the eyes sit on this eye line here. And he's got sort of thick lips and kind of a vacant expression. He's also got a double chin. The top of his head is sort of round, and then he's got like sort of like a comb over. He's got like tendrils of hair just sort of brushed over. And then the rest of his hair is sort of curly and lumped off to the sides like this. You draw this sort of waistline up high on his body. All of this upper mass is sort of his upper torso. And from the corners of his neck, draw down to the center line. That's where his jacket would come to a point, and like the buttons on it. At this line is also where his stomach would break slightly forward into like a gut. This is sort of the bottom of his jacket. Rolls back into a pair of tails. His shoulders are very sort of close together, and his arms kind of hang more or less limply down. And he's got like weird 3-fingered hands. He's got relatively large shoulders, and then his arms just kind of hang straight down like so. The thought behind his hands were almost like they were like tentacles, almost as if they didn't have joints in them, but they were kind of floppy, so they kind of just hang in different directions. Then he's got a cummerbund around the middle, and then his pants are striped. He's got very small feet. And then he's got his narrow and tall top hat. And then once you get all this sort of lightly constructed, go back in and define your features. And I always put like a little bit of a break on the back of his neck as if his collar's tight and it's cinching his sort of fat neck. Then he's got kind of this weird lumpy tufts of hair on either side. He's got very, very small feet, and he wears kind of like spats. And then he kind of squats so his legs are more or less bent. Then he's got sort of striped pants, and the stripes all follow the contour of his round bottom. And that's it. It's Uncle Blob.
Meet Tom Owens. Tom is a concept artist at Big Idea Productions, which means he draws the characters and helps design the look of the show. Today he's going to show you how to draw B.I.N.G.
B.I.N.G is relatively simple to draw. He's just a circle. It's a little round robot. And he's got another circle in there that's his eye that's got like a metallic ring around it. So it's sort of a lens that's inset. So you draw one circle in the outside lip of the eye, and then the lens that makes up his eye sits back inside a little bit. You draw like a highlight on it because it's glass and shade it in there to make it look like a lens. And then this outside metal ring that houses his eye has two brackets on the side. Which don't really do anything, they're just there to look cool. Around the side he's got different markings. Just add some squares and some triangles and stuff on them. Under the underside he's got another series of markings, and they all follow the contour of the shape. So if you imagine the overall shape of this thing is like this, follow that around, and you have the underside marking to create this series of boxes on his underside. And then low on his right and left side he's got joints where his arms attach with these ball joints that are inset into the body that have bolt attachments on the edges. Then his arms are very narrow, little stick-like things. And he's got big sort of ball joint elbows with, again, screws holding them together. And then his forearms, again, are very narrow. And then his hands look kind of like drinking cups. And again, they're attached with a screw in the center, and then there's like a seam or two on the edges. And then his fingers are very narrow, and they've got these sort of pivot point brackets in the middle. And we draw this, double up the lines on the edge to indicate that it's kind of flat. And then we draw the other one in real quick. This big elbow there, forearm. Again, keep these fingers real flat. We put an edge on them to accentuate how flat they are. And these center things here are kind of like pivot points. And then add a couple more sort of square shapes here and there on his body. He's got a stripe on the top of his head. And then kind of darken in what you've drawn. And there you have it. That's B.I.N.G.
Hey guys, this is Tom Owens. He works at Big Idea Productions, drawing the characters and designing the look of the shows. Today he's going to show you how to draw Professor Wordsworth.
He's got kind of an easy series of shapes to draw. His head is kind of a long, sort of kidney bean shaped object, which at the sort of the lower half of it pinches down into his neck. And then he's got kind of a teardrop shaped body that we sort of bend backwards. His legs hang off of either side. And he's got kind of big feet. Draws laces on his shoes. Then his arms on either side of his body hang off. He's got kind of narrow arms. We'll draw this from kind of behind his back. And then his other hand, we'll have that out here where we can see it. His jacket comes most of the way down his body, so we draw that stop there, split it up in the middle for a seam, and then the center has buttons all the way up and down. He's got a pocket with a couple of pencils and pens in it. Okay, now on his face, his eyes are really just pupils floating in a set of glasses, so we draw the big lenses for his glasses sitting on his face and indicate that there is a hard edge to them. They're kind of thick. And his pupils just sort of float in the middle of the glasses. They're not really attached to his head, they're more attached to the glasses themselves. Then his nose comes out from between the glasses. Let's draw a smile in there, and he's got buck teeth that hang down. Draws lower lip hanging open, and it connects to this point here where the neck is. We draw his posts for his glasses. He's got a small droopy ears that hang down in the back, and then he's got this sort of wild hair that sticks out the back. He's got some spots on his head and heavy eyebrows, which again they don't really sit on his face. As you can see here, one of them is floating. Shade this in a bit, make his hair dark, and his glasses. And there you have the professor.
Here we have Tom Owens. Tom is a concept artist at Big Idea Productions, which means he draws characters and helps design the look of the shows. Today he's going to show you how to draw Kevin. And I think it's high time Kevin got a little extra attention.
Okay, so now we're going to draw Kevin. I'll show you how to draw him. Kevin is kind of, as you can see, real small head and long sort of pear-shaped body. So we'll start with that. Kevin is narrow at the top, sort of leans forward, and heavy on the bottom. From the head to like the top of his upper torso is about the exact halfway mark from the top of his head to his feet. Should be right about dead center in there where his belt line is. He's got this heavy collar. He's got very wide eyes. He doesn't really ever make much of an expression, so we usually just kind of have him sort of emotionless, which makes him funny. And then he's got these sort of pads on the side of his, I guess, helmet. And then there's the spot where the K is for Kevin. He's got these large triangular sort of shoulder pads. And then larger arms that taper into very, very small hands with, I believe he's only got 2 fingers. And they're sort of thicker in the middle and they taper down to almost a point. His feet come right at the corners of this sort of square area. His behind kind of sticks out a bit in the back. And then at the bottom, his legs attach kind of here, and we put these sort of thighs at those points. And then his feet are right attached to there. And then he's got a color separation showing his belly. So this back here is a different color. So he's got a sort of a light colored belly, and then he's got his belt around the middle. So now we've got that. Go back and just kind of darken this stuff up a bit. Again, he doesn't even really ever even smile. He's just got kind of a plain expression. Doesn't look like he's thinking much. And then there's a seam actually right down the middle. He's got a large sort of neck collar thing. Again, his arms are very, very tapered. He's very pear-shaped. And that's Kevin.
This is Greg Harden. He works at Big Idea Productions drawing characters and designing the look of the shows. Today, he's going to show you how to draw Michelle. Ah, Michelle. There's one top-notch space cadet.
Michelle, I always start out with a circle. Just kind of tell me where it's going to be for the most part. Then I'll put in her eyes. They're just these little dots. And then her nose. And give her a smile. Go ahead and give her her cheeks. And her ears. And her eyebrows. Okay, so now it's time to put in her bangs. She's got little girl bangs that go right on her eyebrows. The rest of her hair. And she's got freckles under her eyes. And this is one of my favorite parts. Get to draw her pigtails. Okay, and here's her neck. And then I'm gonna give her glasses. She never likes to wear, but I'm gonna give them to her anyway. She doesn't like to wear glasses, but she's supposed to, so I'm gonna put them on her. Now, Michelle's gonna be happy to see us too, so she's gonna wave at us too. But she's gonna kind of have this cute little pose where she puts all of her weight on one leg. I put her flower on there. And then I think I'll put her hand about here. And then kind of figure out where I want her arm to go. I put her leg down. Her shorts. And all of the parts of her clothes have these little stripes. Right there and right there at the bottom of her shirt. And around her neck. Okay, so draw her legs and her feet. She's got these little kind of square feet. She's only got 4 toes. I don't really know why. I think it just looks neater or something. And her sandals. Give her toes. And the strap on her sandals. Okay, so now she's doing this cute thing. So she's gonna put her arm behind her back. Kind of like that. And then I think I want her hand maybe a little more here. And her hand only has 3 fingers as well, and a thumb. Try the rest of her arm. Flare out her shorts a little more. That's it. That's Michelle.
Michelle here with Tom Owens. Tom is a story artist with Big Idea. Today, he's going to show you how to draw someone very special to me.
Today we're going to draw Grandma. Grandma's got a sort of a wide face. So I'll start by drawing her head. And I draw kind of a crisscross pattern across the front of her face to put an eye line in the center of the face to establish that stuff. Her draw out from the base of her neck into her shoulders. And then draw her body down to the bottom of her dress. And again, we put the center line down here. Everything comes to this point. Down at the base, her feet are really little and they come out from under her dress just a little bit. We don't see very much of them. And little shoes. On her face, she's got two little just black dot eyes, and her eyebrows are just above there, and her nose sits right in the intersection of these two crisscross marks. Then her mouth goes under there. She wears rectangular glasses that have posts that go back either side of her head to her ears. Her ears would sit right here. Grandmum's hair on top of her head is just a series of round sort of donut shapes on top of her head. And it's all curly, so we kind of draw these curls in there. And then Grandmum's got a chin visible in sort of the shape of her head. Then we draw her neckline, and she's got kind of a frilly collar thing that goes around like that. And then around the front of her body, again, this is the center line, and everything comes to this point. So her apron will come around, and the low point, again, will cross that line. And then her shoulders roll off into her forearms, and she tends to stand around with her little hands balled up as if she's anxious. And then she's got short sleeves with the same frilly pattern on them. Do the same to the other side. And draw our other hand and her forearm down to her elbow. And then she has a apron that has that same repeating pattern on it. And then the blue dress hangs out from around there. And there you have it, that's Grandmum.
Michelle here with Tom Owens. Tom is a story artist with Big Idea. Today, he's going to show you how to draw one of the dart people from Planet Telloli.
Today we're going to draw one of the Telloliers from episode 6 of Penguins. I'm going to draw a line for about how tall I want to draw them. And through the middle, I'm going to indicate where his face will be. So, like, figure if this is the center of the whole body, this will be where his neck is, and his face is kind of an uneven rectangular shape. So the top is wider than the bottom. This is where his neck is. This is where his hat sits. At the neck, there's a kind of a metal band in there. These are all different metal pieces for the dart. His body radiates out from his neck and gets real wide at the bottom, kind of like a dress. And then down here, again, there's a metal piece. So we bring this in, draw like a band around, flare it out once more, connect these two shapes, and then draw this round shape at the bottom, and that is the bottom of the dart. So all of these curves are the same shape so that they feel like they go around the body in the same direction. And then just draw the arrow, the point tip, under the underside of that. Now on his face, I'm going to draw him facing this direction. So figure if the center of his face is here, we'll put one eye on the left side of the center point. And we don't see the other one because he's got this giant nose. So the other eye is like over on that side. So the nose sticks way out from the face. And then we draw this circle, semicircular shape all the way down to his chin. Draw the front of the front lip. And then his chin connects to this line here. The upper lip sticks out over the bottom lip. Now his hat is the feathered part of the dart. So there's, again, this metal ring that goes around his head that the feathers stick into. So we'll put a lip on his sort of hat shape. And then his feathers are wider than his body, so we'll just immediately go way out like this. And then draw up to where they're going to go, follow the center line, and then do a V back in. So from these 2 points, which are roughly the same width, we'll do slightly circular shapes leading up to them. Don't make them too square or flat. And then put a break for the feathers on one side, maybe another one over here. But don't put them in the same spot. Keep them separate so it looks interesting. And then, so the feathers are all shaded in because they're dark, they're black. And then around the front of him, I'm going to put a center line for his chest. Since he's facing forward, the center won't be right here. It'll be a little bit off to the right. I'll put the center of his body and start constructing the X pattern of belts. So the top point comes to this center line, and everything else does the same thing. So you figured that line connects through to here, and that one connects through to there, and then we'll do a little bit of an indication there. So we see these belts wrap around, and then they've got a white stripe on either side of these things, and then the center is black, so we'll darken that in. And there's one of the dart people.